Hello, I'm Ruth Buchanan and I'm going to talk you through how I painted Conquistador. I started with background washes in the base colours I was planning to use. These are sap green, cobalt blue, ultramarine, cerulean blue, rose madder and madder brown. As you can see, I've masked off certain areas where I wanted a defined line, but in other areas I just allowed the wash to run over the painting. This helps tie the painting together. I like to establish my darkest tone early, so I painted in next the rider's helmet and glasses. I also worked in the Polo mallet to establish a tonal range. In this painting, the near side or left foreleg needs to come forwards, so I've next worked sap green into the area under the horse's belly, and this will start to create some modelling. For some reason, and it's a bit of a quirk of mine, I like to paint saddle and tack early on. Again, this does help establish a tonal range, so this is what you can see here. Standing back and looking at it, the rider's face is starting to bother me. I don't think I've got it right on the initial wash, so I've carefully blotted it out using clear water and some kitchen roll. You have to be careful here not to rub, as this damages the support surface. The image below is a quick sketchbook working I did while I was painting the painting, just to solidify in my mind how I wanted the face to look. On this one, I've just started to work in the rider's back arm. Now I've reworked the face and painted in the shirt using an additional colour of cadmium red. The darker red tones are made by mixing in sap green, ultramarine and a touch of madder brown. The undershirt I've then painted in with mixtures of madder brown with either cobalt blue or ultramarine, using paint from tubes rather than from pans, just so I can get a creamier consistency. Now I want to get the painting working more as a whole, so I'll quickly work in some tone into the dark areas using ultramarine in a loose wash. I left out the supporting hind leg as I've plans for that later. At this point I feel the blue wash behind the horse's head needs to give more definition to the horse's head, so I've re-wet the area and added more ultramarine and brown madder dropped wet onto wet. So now I've started to define the horse's head. Here I've used a dot technique to build texture under the eye with layers of the background wash over the top. Again, standing back and looking, I think I need to establish the rose madder wash more through the painting. So bringing some of it forward into the horse's neck, shoulder and chest, and with a mix of cerulean and cobalt blues into the rider's right legs. I also work a little more on the horse's chest and left or near side leg and front belly with the same mix. More defining here, but still building through light washes of cobalt and a mix of cobalt and rose madder on the underside of the horse's neck and chest. I'm deliberately ignoring the back end of the horse for a particular reason that I'll tell you later. I could fiddle with the neck washes for days, so I need to establish a tonal cage. To do this, I paint in the boot and the hoof on the left or near side horse's leg, which needs to come forward from the background. And then I add in the girth to help define the near side elbow. I've then painted in the breast girth just because I wanted to. The martingale and reins play an important part in this painting, so I've just worked it in lightly using a watery mix of cobalt and brown madder, leaving some areas blank for shaping later. And then on this one I've added in some more definition in the martingale. Standing back and looking at the picture from a distance, even turning it upside down or on its side so I can see what I need to work on, I think I need to bring the rider's knee forward. So I've worked into his boot and knee guards, still mixing from the background wash colours but using a looser technique and lighter washes over the back of the boot. And then I go on to establish the shadow under the boot and knee where they're in contact with the horse. Again, standing back to look, I think I've put too much in the tack, so I take some of the colour out with a stiff flat hog brush, and then using some light washes I tie some of the tones on the chest and the shoulder. I also paint in the stirrup and start to develop the shadow under the foot. Things were getting steamy in the studio at this point, so excuse the slightly fogged lens on this photo. I've now started painting in the back hoof and boots. I deliberately allow the supporting leg to blend into the shadows with no definition on the hoof or white on the fetlock, as I don't want to detract from the near side or left lower leg coming forward. Tiny flick of cobalt for the tail tapes is all that we'll need, as again I want the back end of the horse to just disappear into the background. So now I decide I need a little more definition under the back of the horse's belly on the inside of the supporting hind leg. In reality, this area would be very dark, but I want it to be underdefined and not come too far forward from the background washes. I've also added flicks of the cadmium red that I've used in the rider's shirt into the near side hind boot to enrich the colour there. It can be easy to overdo this, so I use the holding the end of the paintbrush only. I've also added a small amount of shaping to the offside right foreleg, but again want that to fade into the background, so not too much detail there. Note I've also signed the painting so I don't forget later. So now it's a little more defining and detail on the horse's chest and in between the front legs, and just a touch more shadow between the hind legs. As you may have been able to work out, I've made all the colours for the painting from the colours used in the background washes, with just the addition of the cadmium red for the shirt, and then I've added some white highlights and the job's a good one.